Up a little bit. I mean, we've got the Bidvest and Adcock Ingram story going on, and there's been a couple of little deals here and there, and overseas as well. There's been a few things that have caught the eye, but nothing like the previous years. So what's happened in the first quarter in South Africa and Southern Africa as well? I've got a report in front of me from a company called Zephyr. It's the Zephyr quarterly M&A report. It says the following report details private equity activity in South Africa, and I think overall it's been very underwhelming. Let's go now to somebody from Zephyr, and that is Colin Stewart. He's talking to us from London. Colin, it just seems to me that there's been very little going on. Is that a symptom of the malaise in the South African economy? Because I would have thought with all this money on people's balance sheets, there should be some stuff going on.
Yeah, it's definitely been a bit of a sluggish start to this year as regards the quarterly results. There's been a downturn in both volume and value this year. Although it's more noticeable with regard to deal values. They actually dropped 37% from the previous quarter, from just over $4 billion to now just over $2.5 billion, which is a shame really, because it kind of puts a stop to what had been two consecutive quarterly increases in both volume and value towards the end of last year. And also there's been a bit of a divergence in results compared to the first quarter of 2012. Volume has actually increased since that quarter. There were 98 deals recorded then, and this quarter there have been 113, whereas value has actually halved almost, because there was almost $6 billion worth of deal value recorded then, whereas now, as I said, there's just over $2.5 billion. But it seems to be generally as a result of a lack of big ticket deals. There were no deals this quarter that even came close to breaking the $1 billion mark, which we would usually think would be the kind of area where a deal could have a real significant impact on the overall results. Whereas the highest deal for this quarter was a public takeover valued at $506 million. So it was definitely some way down on what we would hope to see.
Well, let's hope that this is just a quarter that is a bit of a blip, and the previous quarter's performances will be replicated in the third and fourth quarters of this year, second, third and fourth quarters of this year. What sort of sectors in the quarters that were relatively buoyant, Colin, what were the sectors that were really sort of shooting the lights up, if you like?
Well, there's been the thing with, generally across regions we'll see one sector that generally trumps all the others on a monthly basis, but South Africa seems to be the exception to that. It's had quite a lot of sectors have been the top place one over the last 3 years in the quarters. So this month, for example, the highest placed sector was the banking sector, which had deal making worth $971 million. That's a decline on quarter four when there was just over $1 billion recorded. But that's only a very recent development. Prior to that, the sector, I suppose, that's been the most consistent has been the metals sector, which has topped 5 different quarters. But aside from that, there's been, the primary sector performed well at the beginning of 2011, and transport similarly performed well at the end of 2011. The hotels and restaurants sector at the start of 2010 was very high, but since then there's been almost nothing in that sector. So as I said, it really varies in South Africa every month.
Just in the last 45 seconds or so, Colin, the deal that just came to light yesterday was the ABSA Standard Chartered deal. And although ABSA says it's not really material, the fact is that it was a deal. What was your impression of that?
Well, hopefully it will be something that can affect the results positively in the future. It's, I suppose, too early to say now. It'll, I suppose, take to the end of the quarter before we realise what kind of an impact it actually has on the overall results. But I guess any deal making at all is positive.
Yeah, indeed. And very, very finally, your company Zephyr, just tell us a little bit more about it, because I've looked at your website. It's very interesting. Must keep you busy.
Oh, it definitely does, yeah. We're on the M&A portal website, which is mnaportal.com. From our office here, I'm actually based in Manchester, and Zephyr is owned by Bureau van Dijk, which is headquartered in Brussels. So we've been a subsidiary of the company for a number of years now, and as I say, we're mainly engaged in producing quarterly reports like the one you've seen, and monthly reports. We've got a range of them that are all posted on the website.